Welcome to this Innova Systems web snippet on Configure Feature and Configure Component. Now, Configure Feature and Configure Component are simpler, faster, and in my opinion, easier versions of the Excel-based design table. So they work in a very similar way, but they're a little bit quicker to access. So right-click on a component for Configure Component, choose Configure Component, it brings up a table, and we can edit the details in. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by setting up some configurations in my component so that I can then access them in the assembly. Now, for a part, it works in a very similar way. You right-click on the feature and you choose Configure Feature. It pops up a new table, and this is your configuration design table. So we've got Cut Extrude 1, which is the feature we chose, and then we've got whether we want to suppress it or whether we want to change the size of it. Now, if the size you want to access isn't available, you can click on this drop down, and if there are any others, they will appear, and I'll show you some of that a little bit later. So I'm going to create some additional configurations. So we just click in the box, type in a new name, and then for full hole, I'm going to change the depth of my cut to 12mm, the thickness of my material in this particular case. Now, we don't see anything happen on screen because we're still in the default configuration. If we right click on it, we can choose to switch to full hole. It will then rebuild, or choose apply, and we get our full hole through. So we can create another one, and in this case what we're going to do is we're going to suppress the hole completely. And again, if I switch to that, and we can now see there's no cutout at all. And finally, we're going to have another configuration where we're going to change the height. Now, I can't change the height here. All I can do is change the cutout. But I don't need to exit this table. What I can do is choose to add in the size of the panel. Now, I can't do this just by clicking on Boss Extrude, because if I click on that, we get suppress and we get D1, which is the thickness, as we can see over here. Now, neither of those actually controls the size of the panel. What we actually need to do is include the sketch. So double click on the sketch itself. And then again, we can include all of the dimensions. You can see I'm clicking on the drop down and just ticking the dimensions I want. Now, in this case, I'm never going to want to suppress this sketch, so I can choose delete and we can get rid of the column. Again, I'm never going to want to edit the width of this because it's already defined by other parts in my desk, so I can delete the width dimension as well. So we're only interested in D2. Now, obviously, if you name your dimensions, so if D1 became width and D2 became height, then the names you selected would actually appear up here as well. So we're going to change that. We're going to make that 700. We're going to choose apply. Now, if I click OK, the table disappears forever. I can quickly recreate it. As you can see, it doesn't take me very long. But sometimes it's useful to have it already there just to go back to, particularly if you spent a long time selecting all the dimensions and all the features you want included. If we want to save it, what we're going to do is we're just going to create that. And we're going to save it away. And then we can hit OK. Now, what it's done is in the background it's created all the configurations for us. So they're already created. You can see currently we're in no hole. I can go to full vanity, which is full height, full hole, which is the full cut, or back to default. So it's done all the creation for me. And then in the tables folder, which has been created, we've got sizes and details. Double click on this and it takes us back into our table. If we want to, we can then come back to the features and add in additional features if we wanted to configure them. Or we could choose to delete a column from this, or we could choose just to edit what goes where. But I'm quite happy with that so far, so we're just going to give that a quick rebuild, and then we're going to go back to the assembly. So we've added some configurations to our vanity panel. So we're going to then want to configure the component. So right click, configure component, we get the same table. The only difference is this one includes the configurations column. Because suppression and configuration are two things you usually want to control in an assembly. So we're going to add some more features, and then in the full vanity, we don't want to suppress it. What we want to do is we want to include full vanity. And then again, another configuration, we're going to choose that, and we're going to choose full hole for that one. Hit apply, it'll automatically create the configurations for me. Now actually I also want to do some other configurations that remove the cupboard and the vanity completely. So what we're going to do is we're going to include the cupboard base and we're going to include the cupboard side and drag them in here. So again, more configurations. And we can suppress the cupboard. no vanity. Surprisingly enough, what we're going to do is we're going to leave the cupboard, but we're going to suppress the vanity. And then we'll hit apply, give it a name, and we can save it. And now straight away, we've got all of our configurations, and we can click, we can remove the vanity, we can remove the cupboard and leave the vanity there, or we can put the vanity with the hole in. So you can see it's really quick to create the tables, configure your features, your components, change the sizes of things, and allow SolidWorks to do the grunt work of creating and saving and controlling the table and creating the configurations for us. So like I said, I think it's just that little bit quicker and simpler to use than an Excel-based design table. Now, something you can't do, which you could do in an Excel-based design table, is add in equations to control things. That is one limitation of these. But as I said, nice and quick and simple. Thank you very much for watching.